Over her history, the Catholic Church has recognized or canonized more than 10,000 saints, people whose life of heroic virtue are supposed to be an example or an inspiration to the rest of us. It's no small thing to be canonized a saint by the Catholic Church. The complex process that the Church follows to recognize a saint begins with a basic investigation of a person's life, including what they wrote, what they said, and what they did, to see if at the end of their lives they were living a life of heroic virtue. They may have had a long, winding road to holiness. Many saints have really messy pasts, but it's how they ended, not how they started, that matters. We also have to wait for 2 verifiable miracles attributed to this person's prayer after they've died, both of which must also be meticulously investigated. Once everything is collected, compiled, and approved by the Pope, we have a big celebration where this person is canonized or publicly declared to be a saint. A priest I used to work for had a much simpler explanation about saints than that. When kids would ask him what a saint was, he would explain that saints are the ones who are in heaven, because to be in heaven is to be a saint. He'd go so far as to explain that it is only saints who are in heaven. Now, the obvious question that comes when you hear these 2 explanations is whether this means that of the billions of people who've lived throughout history, Catholics believe there are only 10,000 people in heaven. The answer to that question is a definite no. And it's explained in part by 2 significant dates that the Church celebrates at the start of November. On November 1st, we celebrate All Saints' Day, and November 2nd is All Souls' Day. Now, All Saints' Day isn't just about the 10,000 saints the Church has recognized over the past 20 centuries. All Saints' Day is about all of the saints, which includes countless others whose names we may not know. Think about it. It's a lot easier to be canonized a saint if you're someone famous like Mother Teresa or the Pope than if you're just an ordinary mom or dad or grandma who might also be saintly and virtuous. Because everyone knew about Mother Teresa 30 years ago, whereas your family might be the only ones who know how holy your grandma was. This is why November 1st is so important. It's the day we stop to honor not only the 10,000, but all the other holy men and women whose names only God knows, but the Church will never have the chance to officially recognize. All Souls' Day recognizes that some of us don't reach those heroic levels of virtue when we die. It's important to remember that we don't only believe that God is just, He is, that He gives us what we deserve, but that He is also merciful, giving us what we don't deserve. Now, this brings us to something a lot of people don't understand called purgatory. I'm going to put a link into the description below to an excellent description from Father Mike Schmitz, who tells you everything you need to know about purgatory. But I want to say 2 things here. First off, purgatory is not the in-between option. If you're not quite good enough to go to heaven, but not quite bad enough for hell. It might be better understood as like a mudroom or an outer room for heaven, where you stop and you get cleaned up before you go inside for dinner. The UCAT explains someone who dies in God's grace, but who still needs purification before he can see God face to face, is in purgatory. When we talk about purgatory, we're reflecting on God's love and mercy and the fact that He doesn't treat heaven like a ride at Disneyland. You can only enter if you're this tall or if you're this holy. If we don't reach the level of heroic virtue that we are meant to reach in this life, and we aren't in a state of unrepented mortal sin, in other words, we haven't chosen to outright reject God, we leave God room to finish the work He has started in our lives. This is why we pray for the dead. This is why Mass is the normal way a Catholic celebrates a funeral, because it's the most powerful prayer He's given us. It's also part of why the prayer at every Mass includes a petition like, "Remember also our brothers and sisters who have fallen asleep in the hope of the resurrection, and all who have died in your mercy. Welcome them into the light of your face." It's also why on November 2nd, we commemorate all of the faithful departed and pray for our loved ones who have died, entrusting them to God's mercy. As you've heard before, we're all called to be saints. It may be that someday we'll be among the small group that gets recognized by the Church, and someday people will name churches and schools after us. It might also be that we're in the much larger group who never get officially recognized, but are celebrated as a part of All Saints' Day on November 1st. Thanks be to God. that if we aren't in those groups, there will be people praying for us, just as we are praying for our beloved dead on November 2nd, the Feast of All Souls, and throughout the year.